Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video, and it is once again the end of the month, which means it's time to update the tier lists with all the applicable units, the Protector list, the free-to-play list, and the summonable and, well, other 5-star battle units. So one thing I want to note is that we are changing up the Protector list. We have gotten rid of the stacking power dedicated category because, we've had a few stacking categories now, and we can definitely show that some of them are beginning to age out. So I think it's only fair that we begin ranking them, across the board alongside all the other protectors instead of just being in their own little category. So let's go ahead. I believe, this is going to go off their perfect scenario, right? So if we're going to go in a space team, you're using Space Veldora, you're using his best setup, Melon's best setup, Shuna's best setup, etc. So this isn't going to be like trying to use Veldora on a type advantage stage that is not weak to space and nerfs blues or whatever. Like, no, we're going to use this. We're going to assume this tier list as them being on their perfect team in their perfect scenario, and by then Shuna goes up to S tier because, even if you can't quote-unquote stun, if you have Lumi, you will be able to stun, and then you'll be able to access both of Shuna's stacking powers, and because she's stacking up 2 buffs instead of 1, her damage output can get a lot higher than Veldora or Milim. So, in the perfect scenario, she is S-class. Veldora, I also believe, is S-class. Now that we've had a few months to use him, green metas are not going away. In fact, they're getting very common nowadays. His viability across the game, just even if you're not running a green team, like technically you should be running him with a green team. That way you could pair him with Isis, but you don't have to. But there's only 2 types of units. There's either physical units or there's magic units. And a protector that raises your cap, resets skill costs, and buffs magic damage by himself is a very, very, very strong protector. So I believe that in his perfect scenario, he is great. I used him in my Jubilee videos instead of Romarus, and he got a much better score than the actual meta protector this month. So I think that goes to show how powerful he is. Milim and Veldora. Veldora is quite old now. He can still, do what you need. He buffs all orbs instead of just blues, which is what, Shion, or no, not Shion, but Shuna and Milim are really focused on. So it does open up some lanes for other orbs if you get unlucky hands. But these 2 cannot hold a candle to the power of Shuna because she's double stacking and not single stacking. I'm going to move Guy up into the A tier because, again, as a green-focused meta, full hands of greens, alt gauge, the AOE debuff, it's very, very common to see him used in a lot of places. I will move Gabaru up into B tier because, he does essentially almost what, Chloe's doing in a way. It's a different type of orb. He's technically giving you skill points, not raising your cap, and he's also giving you magic damage while Chloe's giving you alt damage. They can serve, the same purpose on 2 different teams. And then as far as the C tier is concerned, I'm going to put I'll put Benimaru up there. I will put I think I'll put the alt cyclers up here, or the orb changers up here. So these are all besides Benimaru. Benimaru is kind of, he's okay in his perfect scenario, but he's not a great protector. Shion, Romarus, and the Orc are all changing orbs while doing less than what these are doing, but still effective. Veldora could cross that line into here, but everyone else I'm fairly confident exists down here. But Romarus, the new Romarus. So she has the Vitalization skill, which gives you 45% alt gauge for 3 turns, which is powerful. And then she gives you 40 skill points, which is also powerful. And then gives you a 15% space attack buff, which, is not the biggest thing in the world, but it can just, help you do more damage. Especially if you don't have Space Milim, who is going to give that massive 50%. However, she does need orb changers, because it's like, yeah, it's great if you have 3 turns of ult, and if the fight goes for 5 turns, and if you don't have her turn 1, and you activate her turn 2, then turn 5, you're not going to have it active. If you get shafted with orbs, like, that's the reason why Guy is so good, is because that he gives you 35%, which is not as good as 45, but also negates the RNG of terrible hands by changing the entire hand into greens, which is going to get you more points, which is going to get you ult gauge just in general. So then his 35% could actually get you a double ult technically if it works out. So Romarus is good, but I don't think she's like the best thing in the world. So I'm gonna put her into B tier for now. Giving 40 points is cool, but if you don't have orbs in between hands to get her active again, you're gonna be missing out on some ults. You're gonna be missing out on a lot of points. So I think that if she's run on a team of orb changers, you can make it work. It's just that, you're not making greens with her, you're not resetting skill costs, so running her team gets very expensive very quickly, which is why you're only meant to have like the long-term buffs on your unit, and then like every other turn you buff with something big like the ult or the space buff or the crit or whatever the hell you have. So that's my ranking for her. I'm fairly confident of her going here. I don't think she crosses the line into A tier just yet. We'll see later on how I feel. Moving on into the free-to-play unit, Sufia has viability, right? She is an orb changer, which I really appreciate a lot of the newer free-to-play units being orb changers, because it opens up the battle units to having other skills. Because, yeah, they could have orb changers. That's cool and all. But I'd rather have them have 2 very unique, helpful skills for the team or for, their DPS, rather than having 1 or 2 of them locked into being orb changers, because the free-to-play unit has 2 like weird skills that never work well together outside of the specific team, and then you're taking away from the team synergy, I think, by not having the free-to-play unit be an orb changer. So she fulfills that role there. She's like a free-to-play Aaron. She changes oranges to greens, which is good because there's a lot of green-focused teams. And then her second skill is the charm effect, the enamor, if you want to call it the real term. 15% ult gauge for 1 turn. So not as good as the summonable units, because that's 15% for 3 turns, and they have extra effects on them. But anyone, if you're running a green team, can benefit from her orb change. And literally any team can benefit from her charm effect. Just a free 15%, which, could push you into the range of having an ult or not having an ult, depending on how your hand looks out. So I think she's fairly good, actually. So I'm going to move her up into A tier. There are other orb changers in here. I mean, we just got done talking about Aaron. Her HP and crit resistance is situational at best. You need a healer to really make the most out of that HP increase. The crit resistance is fine. Sokka being, an orb changer, is okay. And then I totally forget what her second skill is, but I think it's not great. Shinsha is a capable orb changer. She's a single orb changer, and she's also the light attack buffer. So, I mean, she does have viability. Hero just has the burn and the giveaway, and then the physical resistance down, which is useful, again, on his own team. But I think that Sufia can be ran on multiple different teams instead of being restricted to just one. So that's why I'm putting her up into A tier. Actually, I think I want to move Frey down, now that I think about it. Like, she has the double orb change, and she has the giveaway, which I guess you can use for other teams. But I personally don't use Frey much now that we have Water Rimuru and Geld. Like, these two, I don't think we'll see much usage, really. So I'm going to leave this up here. Maybe I'll move Shinsha up into A tier, just because she does have, the double-sided support of orb changing, not the color that Shion and Rimuru have. So yeah, maybe I'll hold it here for now. Let me know your comments on this free-to-play unit ranking right here, because I'm pretty flexible on this one right here. I could move any of them, really, if I hear a strong enough argument and if I agree with it. But moving on to the actual battle units, as far as changes to make on this list, I don't... Raphael Raphael does see a lot of usage now on nuking teams where you could move him into S tier. His Valor Cup usage, like, yeah, it's funny that you're going to try and stun people. It can happen. I have a video I have to record on him but doing that sort of thing, but I don't know. But as far as like strong nuking teams, like he will definitely help you do more damage because he's giving you Pierce and he's putting that ult resistance down. So I will move him up into S tier for now. But again, I'm not married to this. I think he'd be a high A, low S tier if we could ever fucking do that, but you can't. So I'll move him up for now, and then I'll see how I feel next month after we're done ranking. Everybody else, Lumi. I mean, yeah, if you're looking to stun, but like 80 point cost versus 55 point cost, you're still in the same category. I don't really feel like moving you up, and nobody else I feel like moving. So let's start ranking the units. We'll go backwards from release. So Yuki, fantastic Valor Cup unit. Oh my god, he is so good in Valor Cup. And he can help you do more damage in AOE scenarios in Jubilee, because he's got that cheap AOE debuff for 25%, which isn't as strong as Raphael's, but it still does help your AOE units do more damage. Actually, anyone do more damage. So I think that he is a competent... This is overall usage in the game, huh? I think he's a B tier. He's not, like, you don't need to summon for him. Like, these units, like, are very, very good. They're worth summoning for. He's very good in one very specific event, Valor Cup, and then he's decent in other teams, but you don't have to have him to do good damage. So, I'm gonna put him in B for now. Shinsha can be good, and if she's on the space team, then she will definitely shine as the ult buffer and also lowering the space resistance of an enemy. Also has a charm effect for 3 turns, so that's 15% ult gauge, and lowers pierce resistance, which if you have a team that's guaranteed to pierce, like if you're bringing Light Rimuru, or Raphael, whatever you want to call him, you're giving everyone pierce, so then you're doing more damage because of the pierce resistance debuff, and you just have the ult damage. But I again value consistency on teams, right? And so Milim and Shuna being ult buffers and orb changers, I think is a little bit more useful than Shinsha being an ult buffer, a specific resistance down, which I know that Shuna also has that. She has water resistance down, which no one really gave a shit about. You just used her because she was an orb changer. But she was on a team focused on blues, she's on a team focused on greens, and you're on a team focused on space. Specifically space. So I don't think she's going to match the godly tier. I will gladly put her up in A tier, though. Let's get up here. I'll move her up into A tier, because she does have use. I don't know if I would put her into S tier, though. I know there's a few people that would rank her S tier, and I know that the Slime Wiki, I think, ranks her triple S tier or something, which I definitely don't agree with. But again, if you are using her in her most perfect scenario, you'll have Space Milim, you'll have Shion, or you'll have Carrion, and then, the space resistance down will definitely be a boon to you, and you can get, if you're using Raphael, if you happen to have a unit that can give you Pierce, then she can help you with that output a little bit. But I think she's a little bit too specific. And then Shion. Very, 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 very strong AOE unit. She also has the charm effect, 15% ult gauge, and then she also gives herself a charm strike, which is kind of like the stun strike skill, where you have to meet a certain condition and then you just get an extra 15% attack buff. It's not multiplicative, it's just an extra, it's just like another attack buff. So it will help you. And then she has her guaranteed pierce, which is why Shinsha is a thing, and then 30% pierce power, which is strong. Right? So, but she is an AOE unit. So outside of this Jubilee and this specific Tempered Edge beatdown battle, whatever they're going to call it, am I going to use her a lot? Yeah, I can use her in Valor Cup, which is fine. She is self-sustaining. She has her own a DPS buff as a whole. She is a DPS unit, so if you get her to 6-star, she gets the extra like 45% alt damage or something like that. So that's impressive as well. But again, AoE units outside of very specific AoE focused metas kind of fall to the wayside. I will also put her into... I'll put her into A tier as well. With I could move her into S tier. I could well let's see. Like Benny's an AoE, he has an attack buff, he buffs oranges. I think for overall general use, I think Shion can hold her own as an AoE unit, since a lot of the beginning stages in, like, with your new player, she can definitely outdamage, right? And a lot of them are AoE focused, so it's just when you get to, like, end game content, it becomes, like, 1 enemy, 2 enemies, which still, she can put up good numbers. So I will leave her in S. I will leave her and Raphael in S, but I would like to hear your comments on this placement in the comments below, because, again, I can see arguments keeping her in S or dropping her down into A, mainly being that AoE-focused things generally don't have as much longevity, staying power, as single-target stuff. But if she can hold her own, she can hold her own, and that's what I'm ranking her on. Shinsha, I don't really think she belongs in S tier. I think she's... I like the usability, viability, team-building-centric opportunities for these two. That'll help the team out, rather than focusing on her. If you're going for big, wanky DPS, then sure, Shinsha will help if you're running a space team. If you're running a dark team, you're just going to run Millum. If you're running a water team, you're just going to run Shuna. If you're going to run a blue team that's not space, then I would just bring Shuna. If you're going to run a green team that's not space, then I would just, which there are a lot. There are a lot of teams that are green that are not space, then I would just bring Millum. So that's why I value these two much more highly than Shinsha. So that's it for the tier list video. So we've got Shion in S, Shinsha in A, Yuki in B. We've got Sufia in A tier, and then we have Romarus in B tier. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you later.